So thanks. We have the Democratic leadership on the Ways and Means Committee, including the ranking members, who have great knowledge of the particular disciplines in which they oversee. And part of the job, as you're reminded, is that Congress is here to oversee the executive and to check executive authority, and certainly to raise some questions about what I think we'd all agree right now is constitutional overreach. And central power has been centralized power in American democracy has always been a fair subject for inquiry. And as we proceed in April to celebrate the beginning at Concord and Lexington of the 250th anniversary of the American Declaration of Independence, let's not forget that part of it was the idea that from the Runnymede, Magna Carta, the Battle of Hastings, right to the Declaration of Independence, it was checking executive authority. And that is our fundamental role, and that members of Congress don't serve under presidents of the United States. We serve with presidents of the United States. I think one of the things that we're also very mindful of today is that the data breach, and that's what it would be treated like with any other press announcement if somehow somebody broke into the most private records that individuals have. But what's more important than health records? What is more important than health records? If an individual goes to a pharmacy, to the CVS, or to Walgreens, they're very guarded about the prescription that they might secure. That is their business. We have no idea now where this data might land, and as it relates to even Social Security. Remember, part of Social Security is disability. And disability, I don't think people want to share what the disabilities might be or how they're being perhaps medicated for them. And not to miss the point as well, in Medicare Part D, the prescription drug benefit, this is about the providers and who has access to this information. So I think that we are all united in this issue, that privacy remains next to liberty in our constitutional society. And to hear more about that, Terry Sewell, who is entirely knowledgeable. I've been to Alabama with her, spent 3 days. We toured her hospitals. We toured her healthcare providers. She's very sensitive to this information as well. Congresswoman Sewell.
Good afternoon. I'm Congresswoman Terry Sewell of Alabama's 7th Congressional District, and I serve as ranking member of the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Oversight. I want to thank Ranking Member Neal for convening us today. This is an urgent matter, one that demands immediate attention. Let me be clear. Elon Musk has absolutely no business handling the personal information of American taxpayers, period. For an unelected billionaire to have full access to Americans' personal tax and Social Security information is not only egregious violation of privacy, but it is illegal under Section 6103 of the Internal Revenue Code. As we all saw this morning, we uncovered a set of alarming emails shining a light on Elon Musk's true intentions. He sought to use his access to the Treasury payment system in order to cut off payments to USAID. This raises extremely serious concerns. If Elon Musk can shut off payments to an entire federal agency, we can only imagine what he will be doing with Americans' personal taxpayer information. The American people deserve to know exactly what information has been accessed, how many times it has been accessed, and for what purpose it is being used. As a ranking member of the Subcommittee on Oversight, I am demanding that the IRS provide those answers to us immediately. I led a letter signed by every Ways and Means Democrat to the Acting Commission of the IRS requesting specific details about Elon Musk's access to America's information. Let me be very clear. President Trump is not king. Congress is a co-equal branch of government, and we will not hesitate to exercise our oversight authority to hold this administration accountable. On behalf of the American people, we expect a prompt and thorough response to our questions. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who has reached out to my office to express their concerns. Our phones have been ringing off the hook with constituents handed over to an unelected billionaire with no accountability to the American people. I want you to know that I see you, we hear you, we all know that we will do everything in our power to fight back against this reckless abuse of power. Rest assured, we will not stand by and let Donald Trump and Elon Musk violate your privacy and dismantle the programs you rely on in order to enrich themselves and their billionaire friends. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to yield the podium to the Tax Subcommittee ranking member, none other than the gentleman, Mike Thompson from California.
Thank you very much. I'm Mike Thompson from California's 4th Congressional District and the ranking member of the Tax Subcommittee. I'd like to thank Chairman Neal and all of my colleagues on the committee for the great work that we're doing to protect our constituents and the American people. You couldn't find a better group of experts in this policy area than those that I share this stage with today, nor could you find better advocates for their constituents and for our democracy, and I'm proud to stand with them. Constitutional overreach or violation of the law, take your pick. What I know for sure is that my constituents are upset. I've heard from thousands of constituents, emails, phone calls, personal conversations. People are fed up with the chaos that's coming out of this administration, and rightfully so. They're concerned that their private information, both their private financial information and their private health care information, has been breached. That's wrong. And now we hear today that the next step is they're going into the Veterans Administration. Veterans who fought for, put their life on the line for our democracy and our country, their privacy is being breached or about to be breached as well. That's wrong. I stand with my colleagues in saying that we'll do everything we can to stop this chaos, stop this nonsense, stop this attack, and protect our constituents, the American people, and our democracy. Now it's my honor to introduce the ranking member of the Health Subcommittee from Texas, Mr. Lloyd Doggett.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Mr. Ranking Member, our future Mr. Chairman. I am Lloyd Doggett from Austin, Texas. May or may not have Elon Musk as a constituent down there somewhere around our area, but while never elected to anything, he has elected to invade the privacy of every American by accessing confidential information such as bank numbers, social security numbers, and tax information that is so sensitive that improper disclosure of it can lead to 5 years in federal prison. This information has never before been shared with outsiders. Safeguards on its abusive use by Musk and his merry band of minions has not been there because President Trump first authorized him to basically do whatever he wanted to, and second, he removed the Inspector General at the Treasury Department, as he did at about 16 or 17 other agencies that provided a watchdog to ensure that their proper procedures were followed. The former top career official at the Treasury Department, someone who had been the guardian of the safety of the American people for 35 years, said no when Mr. Musk came, and he was pushed aside and access was given to these records over his objection. Now, arithmetic is the big factor here in this Congress because there are more Republicans than there are Democrats, although only by one, perhaps, during much of the period in question. We're here to declare that while we recognize those limitations, we will use every tool we can find, every tool available to protect the privacy of the American people and to ensure that Elon Musk and Donald Trump don't disrupt payments on which individuals and American businesses are depending. With that in mind, one of the rarely used tools in this Congress is to file a formal resolution of inquiry. In addition to the requests that have been described that we've already sent as members of the Ways and Means Committee to the Treasury Secretary, the Internal Revenue Service, we will be filing a resolution of inquiry to demand that the administration answer key questions regarding the safety of Americans' private data. When alarm rose over Musk's access to this information, the Trump administration immediate response was that Musk minions only had access to read whatever they found over there at the Treasury Department, not to change anything. But subsequent developments raised great questions about that. Musk himself has boasted that he has blocked payments to Lutheran Social Services, and as my colleague mentioned, that he was using this information to cut off payments to the Agency for International Development, a very vital part of our national security that is under assault by the Trump administration. We don't know when and on whom the Musk-Trump axe will next fall, but we are trying to do something about it. Now, one of my constituents in Austin has already experienced a problem with this payment system under the Trump administration. When she attempted to submit a request for payment on a federal grant, she only received the message, quote, "error unrecognizable," and she verified that the same thing had happened to another Texan in a nearby city. You know, I think error unrecognizable is an apt description for the unprecedented assault on the private data of American citizens and a tool for disbursing federal dollars. Instead of protecting Americans by acting immediately on our petition for inquiry, I'm sure that the Speaker, a Trump minion, an enabler in chief, will no doubt refer it to the full Ways and Means Committee, which is pretty busy right now because they're working overtime to ensure that Musk and his fellow billionaires get more tax breaks. But if we do not get prompt action in the Ways and Means Committee, we're authorized under the rules of the House to bring this directly to the full House. And perhaps at that time, divided by a single vote, Americans can determine whether their member views the importance of protecting privacy and assuring uninterrupted payment of Social Security payments, veterans benefits, tax refunds, and the vital funds on which our families, our American businesses, and our communities depend. That's what we'll be about. And to add to it, I call on my colleague, the ranking member on the Trade Subcommittee, Linda Sanchez of California.
So good afternoon. I too am proud to stand with these outstanding members of the Ways and Means Committee to push back on this unprecedented overreach of power. I'm Congresswoman Linda Sanchez, and I'm the ranking member on the Ways and Means Trade Subcommittee. Chaos is the only way to describe what is happening. It's as simple as that. Chaos is all that we have seen out of the Trump administration so far. We're seeing chaos on the trade front with tariffs. President Trump threatens them, and then he gets scared and he retreats. He leaves fragments in place and then delays others on a whim. And chaos is what we're seeing at Treasury with Elon Musk and Doge as well. Why in the hell were a bunch of kids who are not even legally old enough to rent a car given access to Americans' private information? The law is clear. Congress enacted Section 6103 to protect Americans' private tax information. But not a single one of our Republican colleagues seem to care that that law is being violated. And they don't care that the private tax information of millions of Americans is in the hands of Elon Musk and his teenage cronies. Democrats are demanding answers. We want oversight, hearings, and investigations into this invasion of privacy. But we can't do it alone. The math isn't on our side. We need a few Republicans who still believe in law and order and separation of powers and co-equal branches of government. We need them to stand up and to stand with us, to stand up for the people that they serve. President Trump might be fine surrendering complete control to de facto President Musk, but Congress shouldn't be okay with an unelected billionaire calling the shots. Until Republicans are willing to stand up to Presidents Trump and Musk, there's just going to be more chaos. And the American public deserves better. With that, I'm proud to introduce outstanding member and colleague of mine from the great state of Nevada, Stephen Horsford.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to join with my colleagues and want to thank the chairman, Ritchie Neal, for providing leadership, as well as Leader Hakeem Jeffries. I am Stephen Horsford. I represent Nevada's 4th Congressional District, and as a member of the Ways and Means Committee, I want my constituents to know that I'm working hard to defend them every single day. Now look, The American people elected Donald Trump to run our government for 4 years, not to gut it for generations to come. We only have one president at a time, and nobody voted for Elon Musk. Nobody voted for his hackers. The largest illegal data breach in U.S. history took place on this administration's watch, at this administration's direction. And we still don't know who's in charge or what they're up to. The American people trust our civil service to meet their needs. One man, Elon Musk, can now decide if hardworking Americans receive their tax refunds, when they receive their tax refunds, even who among us will receive one. Democrat or Republican, independent or unaffiliated, nobody in this country agreed to give an unelected oligarch their home address, social security number, bank routing information or account number, individual child support obligations, medical information, and more. He just took it illegally, and Trump let him do it. And what's going unaddressed by this co-presidency is really too important to ignore. The Trump taxes, also known as his tariffs, are raising prices on anything coming from some of our closest trading partners and eroding those trading relationships at the same time. Eggs in Nevada are now $9 a carton. The price for a pound of beef could hit $25. And gas, which was going down, could rise back up to $4 a gallon or more. And it won't stop there. Toys for children, food on our tables, the technology we rely on, it's all going up. Every Nevadan and every American is right to be alarmed and to feel anxious. This is not functional government. This is not what you voted for. It's government dismemberment. It's chaos. And so as part of my work in making sure that my constituents' voice are heard, I've launched a special website where my constituents can go and share information about the executive orders that have been implemented and how they are affecting their lives. I want to hear from you. I will listen to your concerns, and I'll work hard to defend your efforts. We are here to meet the actual needs of our constituents and to hold President Trump, his puppet master Musk, and their Doge bros accountable for their illegal violations of our laws and the United States Constitution. And with that, I'll turn it over to a member of the Ways and Means Committee, co-chair of the Problem Solvers, Congressman Tom Suozzi from New York.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Leader Neal. This really is an amazing assemblage of talent on the Ways and Means Committee. We're very fortunate to have such a great committee. So why do we go through these hearings to confirm cabinet officials, check all their backgrounds to make sure that they're going to do their jobs the right way? Why do we go through background checks? Why do people get security clearance? Why isn't Elon Musk a full-time employee of the U.S. government? What about the guys that are working for him? Have they gone through any sort of process like that whatsoever? Privacy is one of the most important principles in our country. I'm trained as a lawyer and a CPA. You don't have to be a lawyer and a CPA to understand how sensitive people's tax information is. You don't have to be a lawyer or a CPA to understand that people don't like the idea of having access to their private information. In fact, it's not only a violation of trust, it's a violation of federal law. So we're concerned about what they're doing. We don't know what they're doing. Who really knows what information they have and what they're doing with it? We could ask the Inspector General. Oh, no, the Inspector General was fired. Who's watching what they're doing with this enormous vault of your private information? Not just the people out there, even the people in this room. They're looking at your information. And what are they doing with it? So we do need, as Congresswoman Sanchez said, need some of our Republican colleagues to help us. But I know that the Republicans agree with us. In fact, the chairman of our committee, I'm sure, Jason Smith, agrees with us. How do I know that? Because these are some of the things that he said over the past year. In February 15th of 2024, he said, taxpayer information is confidential and any leaders should be prosecuted to the, any leakers should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. He also said in March, given this committee's essential role, Ways and Means Committee, in originating and crafting legislation on tax policy, legislative text is absolutely necessary to allow us to evaluate it and consider the true impact of these dangerous policy proposals will have on our constituents. This is words right from Chairman Smith. He should be saying the same thing right this minute. He said, he likes the IG's office because he said, the American people deserve to know the facts about this breach of trust. The Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, the IRS and Treasury, must explain to the American people what happened and what is being done to make sure that it's never done again with their private information. He said at a later date, it's up to us, members of the Chief Tax Rating Committee, that's us, in Congress, to protect the public trust and to secure private taxpayer administration. Finally, on September 17th of 2024, in a floor debate, he said, when Americans file their tax returns, they expect their personal data and tax information are confidential. So they agree with us. At least Chairman Smith agrees with us. Let's hope that he continues to exercise the same consistency and support us in our efforts to stop the abuse of this power with our private information, with your private information, and to make sure that the people's privacy is protected. With that, I want to bring up my good friend and very talented member of Congress, Jimmy Gomez from California.
Thank you, Tom. First, I'm a dad, first and foremost. I come from a working class background. And during this time, the most important thing for working families is the cost of living. When people are struggling with skyrocketing rents, with increases in grocery prices, when child care is out of control when it comes to its cost, what are Donald Trump and the Republicans doing? They gave Elon Musk, an unelected billionaire, and his 22-year-old tech bros access to Americans' most sensitive and personal information. Think about this. They have access not only to your Social Security information, records, but they have access to your bank account information, routing numbers. If you paid your taxes using electronic filing, you paid taxes or got paid a refund, that they have complete control over your accounts. That means that they can go in whenever they want and swipe it, right? We've heard that from Americans before when the IRS comes in and takes that money. Now you give that control to Elon Musk. That's what people should be afraid of. And they also have control over this powerful, powerful payment system. So one of the things that we want to know is what are they doing with it? They literally pretty much gave, they can decide if they don't like you on political affiliation to take your money. If you're a nonprofit or an organization and you have a DEI program and they gave you a grant, you know what? You already spent that grant, too bad, we're gonna take whatever you have in your account for as a refund to the government. They can do that so that, and hurt hardworking Americans. This is one of the most extreme issues I've ever seen. They've mentioned this 6103F provision, $5,000 fine or 5 years in prison. That's for one return. But all the returns, that is what we're talking about. That we have to put this in perspective for the American people. Like, this is one of the most serious breaches of personal information, of tax information in the history of this country. And we need to know why Trump and Secretary Bessent gave Elon Musk, who has profited from federal government contracts and who should be nowhere near this information, access to the equivalent of domestic nuclear codes. If Secretary Bessent refuses to answer our questions, he needs to come before the committee to explain himself. At the same time, if we're saying this is as egregious of an act, maybe Bessent is not the one in there looking at the tax information. But if you open the door for that breach and you open the door for criminals to get involved, does that rise to the level of an impeachable offense for Secretary Bessent? This is real serious. And we're not going to stop until we find out what, who, and when they got access to this information. And because this rises to that level. I know Chairman Smith claims he believes in prosecuting people to the fullest extent of the law. Well, it has to be applied to both parties, to Republicans and Democrats. You violate this law, you need to be held accountable. If you're unelected billionaire or an appointed billionaire, doesn't matter. We need to make sure that the American people have full confidence that their information is protected and it will not be abused and they will not have their money stolen from them. With that, I'm going to introduce Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett.
Well, thank you all for being here and to listening to, I believe, one of the most well-thought-out arguments as to why we should all, as Americans, be concerned. I want to thank Ranking Member Neal for gathering this committee. We all know that the Ways and Means Committee has the authority for revenue, for tax writing, for trade. We have been very intentional and very measured before responding to a lot of these issues. You have heard from my colleagues about the range of issues that we are seeing. I know people are calling this chaos. This may be chaos to us, but it's not chaos to them. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly why they're doing. I'm concerned why Elon Musk, a special government employee, whatever the hell that means, that's a new term that's come up, who has nothing, was never elected to anything, is an outside billionaire consultant, and Doge, a fake department, have access to the most sensitive federal payment systems and confidential tax information of millions of Americans. Now, they have access to much more extensive than they've even disclosed to the public. We're learning that day by day by reporters like you all who are finding this information out and sharing it with the American public as to how much they are doing. Whether they are not only just reading this information, they're putting it in AI models, we are finding out. They want to understand where the money is flowing. Why do they want to understand where the money is flowing? A lot of individuals up here have brought up that Elon Musk is a billionaire. We do not hate all billionaires, but let's be clear. Much of Elon Musk's resources and his wealth is based on government contracts. $15 billion that we know of is from one company that he owns in government contracts. That is not a conflict of interest. Our new president, President Trump, has said that Elon Musk is going to self-report if he has a conflict of interest. What kind of nonsense is that? And it's no mistake and no chaotic, discombobulated kind of happenstance that one of the first things that our president did was fire the inspectors general. We've almost forgotten about that and all of the other things that have happened. But the watchers are gone. The watchers are not there to be able to do the kind of independent oversight that Congress gave them authorization to. I loved how my colleague, Congressman Swazi, talked about the quotes for the chairman of this committee about leaks. The concern, the fact that having these leaks is actually a felony. Individuals having unauthorized access to information, your taxpayers' information, is a felony. The concern that the chairman expressed previously was for President Trump, for individuals that they're friends with. They are not concerned with the millions of Americans' taxpayers' information. That should be clear to the American public, that most of the Republicans are not concerned with you. They are not concerned with your everyday cost of living, as Congressman Horsford explained to you. They're not concerned about the cost of eggs that was talked about ad nauseum during the campaign, gas, or other goods that you have, and what's that going to mean to your everyday life. We are concerned with hardworking American people, the information, your banking, your Social Security, the most intimate details of your personal life. That's what Congress should be concerned with at this time. And as Congressman Doggett and others explained, Congresswoman Sewell, who heads up oversight, we are going to use whatever power we have in the minority, in the opposition, to the opposition of taking away Americans' rights and their liberties, as our chairman said. We want to open it up to some questions. If you all have questions, we're happy to respond to them. Yes.
Do you feel like Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson are abdicating their congressional authority by allowing the president to overstep congressional authority? I mean, and do you think we're in a constitutional crisis?
Well, I know that people have talked about a constitutional crisis, and the crisis is when the Constitution is not followed. We are the first branch, the first article of government, and one of those things within that Constitution is that we have the power of federal funding to appropriate and decide where that funding is going. The president has tried to remove Congress's authority to do that by freezing funds, by taking them over, by allowing DOJ to freeze funds, to claw back to discussing of dismantling agencies that Congress has put in place. So if that you think is a constitutional crisis, then yes, we are in one.
But what do you think specifically about the role of, say, Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson?
Well, I can't say what is going on in their mind, but I know that they can see exactly what we all see. And if they're not doing anything about it, then I would say that they've abdicated their authority here in this Congress and in the Senate. I don't know if anybody else wanted anything to add, Mr. Chairman?
I mean, I think in a representative democracy, as Stacy has outlined, there's a responsibility to oversee the executive in our democratic system, to ask some questions. Our understanding is not only do they not ask them publicly, they don't even ask them privately. And I think that that is an abdication of responsibility. Again, members of Congress don't serve under presidents. You serve with presidents.
I just want to point out that today his own attorney, Ty Cobb, said that this is intentional on his part, on their part. It's they're flooding the zone, as it's been described. He said they're going to throw as much unconstitutional stuff out there as possible to see what sticks.
I would just add, I think you ask about the leaders. They have done something. They've erected a giant yield right-of-way sign on this Congress, and whatever President Trump wants, they're here to carry out his orders. Whatever Elon Musk tells President Trump should be implemented here, we can count on them to do it. That's why we're filing our petition of inquiry and why we think it's so important to push back.
I'll tell you just a couple of quick examples where this is not limited to the president of the other party. I disagreed with Bill Clinton over the line item veto. He said so. Tried to become a standing member of Congress to bring the lawsuit. And questioned George Bush Sr. on a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. I thought it was unconstitutional. And questioned President Obama on different issues along the way. That's your job. It doesn't mean you're disloyal to your president of your own party. It means you're loyal to the Constitution of the United States.
Any other questions? Yes.
Question for Congressman Doggett.
Yes, please.
On the resolution of inquiry, do
Right.
you expect that to come up for a vote in the committee, or do you think it would get punted to the floor?
Well, it could go either way. They are pretty busy writing new tax cuts for the ultra-rich. But whether it comes for a vote in front of the committee where we have an opportunity to debate and explore this, whether, and I doubt this will happen, but whether the initial inquiry we made to the Secretary of Treasury, to the IRS, they can dispense with our need for this resolution by providing all the data we've already asked for. But if there's not prompt action within the committee, we would expect to bring it to the floor.
Another question, if I may. The president told House Republicans today that he wants to close the carried interest loophole as part of the reconciliation package. I was hoping to get your response from anybody.
Well, yeah, you'll want to comment, but I think it's like everything else he says, and that's the problem in resolving the continuing resolution and so many other issues we have here. There's no trust there because he changes his position from day to day, hour to hour. And so until you see
I
it,
don't know
don't
if
believe
Mr.
it.
Swazi, did you want to respond to that?
No, but I wanted to say earlier that, we have different tools available to us. Legislation is one, but we're in the minority, so we have to try and get some Republicans to join us. Litigation is something that we see people doing already, getting injunctions. And mobilization, getting the public involved. The job that you do as, ladies and gentlemen of the press, is so important. Maybe that's one of the reasons that President Trump has tried to undermine the press over the past decade or so. Because it's such an important role that you play in helping to educate the public as to what's actually going on here. And despite all these different things, nothing's going to happen overnight. And who knows what codes have been changed? Who knows what things have been implanted in different programs? Who knows what different keystrokes have been done that we may never find out about? So we have really got to do a great job, and we need your help to educate the public as to how outrageous this is, that their private information, think of all the details that Leader Neal went through about people's Medicaid information, their prescription drug information, their tax information. Who knows what they're doing with this stuff? So we need you as much as anybody to help educate the public about it.
Okay, we have one more question. If anyone has one more question that they'd like to make an inquiry. Just be aware that, as all of the members here have said, we're working on a reconciliation package right now. And while the members of the Republican Party here in the House are trying to find ways to pay for tax cuts to their friends and family and billionaires and who President Trump tells them to, the American people are having some of those resources clawed back from them to be able to pay for those tax cuts. Follow the money. Each and every time, that's what this is about. This is about greed at the end of the day. This is not about making America great. Any other thing? Would you like to close out?
Sure.
Mr. Ranking
Any
Member?
questions?
Yes.
I do have a question actually specifically for Congressman Doggett.
Okay, we'll have one last, this is the last question, and then Ranking Member Neal, if he wants to close this out with anything.
So on reconciliation, some Texas Republicans think that the $11 billion that Governor Abbott requested could be a part of reconciliation. Do you expect that will happen, and how do you plan to fight that?
Absolutely not. That $11 billion was a total waste of Texas taxpayer money as a political stunt by a governor who had no authority to be involved on our immigration laws, so I do not support that. There's plenty of money I'd like to see come to Texas to help the as many as 2 million uninsured people that are there. You can send us $11 million to do that, but not to support a political stunt.
Yeah, I think as we close, part of this is just stay tuned, because we're going to be ferocious in our pushback on this. As I noted earlier, privacy is next to liberty, and this